Hi, I'm Yael Arbakari, and this is the story of how an early flight arrival changed my perspective on following my dreams. A new thoughts and theory blog. Wait here, please. I've been dreaming of train stations and airports lately. Dream dictionaries would have me believe I'm undergoing a major metamorphosis prior to departing for some new adventure, and I'm inclined to believe them given everything that's taken place in my life as of late. Change indeed abounds, and while the actions taken to enact those changes have been simple, they've been far from easy, or convenient, or without discomfort. Things as they are. But this is normal, or so the fairy tales and fables of humanity's varied triumphs over mundane aspects would have us believe. In fact, we have a whole industry of professionals and amateurs alike dedicated to walking us through the discomfort of change. Type in inspiration and motivation on any bit of social media video stream, and I promise you'll find enough inspiration porn to cure whatever ails you. At least until you realize that your many obstacles have not budged yet, and you are forced once more to repeat the whole sordid affair. Considerations. As you can tell, I'm a little soured on motivation and inspiration. No amount of happy-go-lucky, I can if I believe it speeches can change the fact that building a dream is the metaphysical equivalent of shoveling shit in hope of finding diamonds. You've got to shovel a lot of shit before you hit a diamond, and you better hope you don't smell terrible by the time you find them. I believe that my ancestors understand the limits of human frustration with the dream-building process, which is why I've been dreaming of waiting lately. I'm a member of a rewards-driven species, after all. Pain is not something we consciously pursue without the promise of something good coming forth. And waiting for my ship to come in while I twiddle my thumbs and write down my thoughts has often left me wondering if I'm just a plain old crazy shit shoveler. Insight from the past. I'm assuming this kind of doubt can be detrimental but expected at this point. At least that's what the motivation porn stars would tell us. Something to do with the lowering of vibrations or whatever Esther Abrams said. And my dreams have been an attempt at a much-needed vibrational raise. But I didn't realize it until I came across a quiet little anecdote from my past, which up until now is just a silly reminder of why I should always double-check my calendar. In a surprising moment of clarity this morning, I saw the story through new eyes, and I believe I've come to understand just what these dreams have been trying to tell me. The story. When I was 20, I was scheduled to fly to New York on January 19th. Somehow, in my nervousness about being late for a flight I hadn't paid for, I convinced myself that the flight was really on the 18th. I woke up incredibly early the morning of the 18th. It was a red-eye flight, and I am not a natural morning person. And I rushed into the car with my mother to take the hour-long trek to Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. About 15 minutes into the ride, my mother realized she'd forgotten her phone. At home, but we were too far into the journey to turn back now, and doing so would run the risk of me being late for my flight. So we pushed ahead, and I arrived at the airport the recommended 2 hours prior to check-in. I waved my mother off, took my carry-on to the counter, and waited in line for my boarding pass. It wasn't until the kind lady behind the counter began apologizing did I realize I was a whole day and 2 hours early from my flight. And because my mother's phone was at home, she was my only ride in the area at the time, I had to wait in the airport until she got back home to beg her to come and pick me up. Reflections. I can laugh about it now, but at the time it was incredibly annoying, especially considering me and my mother weren't in the best of spots relationship-wise. Thankfully, we turned it into a joke and managed to laugh for what had been the first time in a long time, which helped considering gas at the time for her luxury SUV was far from cheap, and she'd made a total of 2 trips to the airport that day. As annoyed as I was, my day before prep actually made getting out of the house the following day much easier. Instead of being stressed and panicked, I was cool, calm, and collected, ready to take my journey in the sky, and since my boarding pass was ready, I could go straight to the Cape. Real-life applications. When I looked at the story today, I finally had a chance to see that my early arrival was the metaphor I needed to make it through the next metamorphosis my dreams had been telling me of. Dreams are never given to the dreamer at the time when the world will be ready for them, always before. As though God or whatever universal deity you wish to perceive knows that the dreamer must understand the necessity of the dream and prove themselves capable of being obedient and patient enough to stick with it long after most would give up. That means us dreamers are often out here at our own metaphysical airports, days, weeks, months, and years early as fuck. In some cases, as with my mother, they might be a whole generation early. And it's frustrating because this earliness is often an inconvenience to ourselves and our respective brides. Sometimes it can end in a laugh and a great story to tell later, but more often it can cause real-world loss and heartache, souring the mood and disposition of the dreamer. Conclusion. While there's no way to know exactly how early you are, only the environment can tell you that. What you can do in the waiting time is sharpen the tools in your box as best as you can and be sure to pack light. What does this mean? Treat your airport wait time not as a drag, but as a test run. Go over the image of what your completed dreams would look like. Contemplate obstacles and problems you might face should you succeed and potential fixes for them. In other words, be prepared. Lose any bits of baggage like worry, self-doubt, and all that jazz because they won't be able to fit in the carry-on, and you'll just end up having to pay for all that extra baggage. Be ready so you won't have to get ready. Your flight can literally take off at any moment, and you sure as hell don't want to miss it after all that waiting. I'm thankful for the revelation this morning that gave me something no inspiration porn ever could: context and perspective. Now, if you excuse me, I've got some waiting to do. This has been a Thoughts and Theory blog from Yael Arbakari. For more thoughts and theory, please read more on www.yaelarbakari.com. Thank you.